Thank you for joining us for our Get Up and Tie Your Shoes podcast, episode 3. We are here with the amazing co-host, Brittany Austin, at her beautiful office in downtown Kings Mountain. If you've not been over here, you need to check it out because it's gorgeous, right across the street from one of our favorites, 133 West restaurant. And today, I'm so excited. I'm going to age myself here, but I have one of my babies. I taught school for 12 years in total, I guess it was. And it seems like an eternity ago, but it seems like yesterday. So I was at the Christmas, what was that? The Christmas
Southern Christmas Show?
No, it wasn't the Southern. It was the one, the Spinning Leaf, the one that Morgan Chandler put on.
Yeah.
A Morgan Chandler boutique put on, and I ran into my baby over here. So this is Miss Kaylin, and do a quick little introduction because I taught her when she was in, what grade were you in?
11th or 12th.
Yeah.
Because I did Spanish like all 3 years.
Yeah.
So I think it was the year that Miss Mayan had her baby.
Yes.
So, but I'm not sure which year that was.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like 2000. I think it was 2010.
Okay, then I'd have been a junior.
That seems right. I mean, even though, like we said last time, I'm still 29, but it was that was the one of the coolest classes because I just filled in at Kings Mountain High School because I had taught over at Burns, and so it was my alumni, and it was cool. So tell us what you're doing now because you're like taken after Miss Fredell over here, Miss Serial Entrepreneur. Let me back up. This hat, y'all. Like, I'm going to post pictures of it. I did like a little TikTok thing on it. But I own a firearms company, and my husband and I, we manufacture firearms. And then I do concealed carry handgun classes. And when I saw this, I saw her and her mom, Monica, and I was like, oh my God, hey girl. And when I saw this hat, I was like, it's got to be mine. So it's just amazing. So you started this business, and tell me how you got to here from Kings Mountain High School, and now you're doing hair, and you have this company and all kinds of good stuff.
So these are the other two that I brought. So I started this during COVID. I kind of had the idea. So my dad is a professional horse trainer. We travel all over the U.S. And so I've always like had an obsession with hats myself. Western fashion, everything in the Western industry. And so when I had traveled out west and I saw them, I was like in love with them, and they are anywhere from like $500 to $5,000, and I was like, yeah, no, I can.
Jeez,
I can
not happening.
$5,000, really?
That's crazy.
Wow.
No joke. So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And so during COVID, I was home. So let me back up. So
because you couldn't do hair then,
yes,
right?
Well, so I hadn't gone to hair school yet. So
okay.
Let me back up. So I went to UNC Charlotte.
Let's go 49ers.
Yes, 49ers.
That was my college.
So I went to UNC Charlotte, and then I decided that I wanted to do weddings and events. So I got my first big girl job.
I'd forgotten that you were doing that.
At a resort in Highlands, North Carolina. And so working long hours, 15, 16-hour days.
It's hard to please people in that industry, too,
yes,
I feel.
Yes, very much so, especially when they're spending like $100,000 on weddings.
Yes.
So like these were very big, prestigious weddings and stuff like that. And so COVID hit. I came home to my parents for a while because we were closed during that like actual shutdown thing. The whole resort was closed
because America, didn't. And Uncle Roy Cooper said that we couldn't be near people because it was dangerous. Like the fact they shut our government down like that is it's crazy. When we look back 4 years later, does it not make you go, holy crap? It really they shut our businesses down. We lost over $400,000. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, and so I came home and I just kind of started thinking like it was actually I could like relax and kind of take a breath, and I was like, I want to do something different. Like I love this, but at the time too, I was getting later in my 20s, and I was like, okay, I want a career change, but like I do want kids and a family one day, and so I want to figure out something else career-wise that I can do. My grandmother was a hairdresser for 60 years. My aunt's a hairdresser, like everybody. And they were like, oh, you're going to be a hairdresser. You love to do hair. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. That's the one thing about me. If you tell me what I am going to do, I am not going to do that.
Yeah. True story.
So we learned the hard way, along the way, doing some other things. And then me and Mom were talking during COVID, and I was like, I think I want to go to hair school. And so that's what I did. And so I started this, and I was like, oh, I did a few. Actually, my granddad had the wood burning stuff. He does wood, furniture, things like that. So I went over to his house, and I just kind of played around with a few hats that I had just to see. And then I was like, okay, well, I think I'm just going to post these, and I'll just do this as a little bit of extra money while I'm in school, you know? And then it literally just blew up.
Wow.
And
and just to piggyback on that, I remember me and you were texting back and forth during COVID and trying to figure out life during then. Even though there was a lot of money lost, there were some really cool businesses born during COVID.
Yes.
There really were.
I think that's when a lot of people realize, hey, I've got to figure out something. What am I going to do? And two, especially my generation and the younger generation and stuff too, it started with, that's when TikTok blew up.
Right.
And so people started posting.
People were bored. Everybody was at home.
People were bored. We were making TikToks, right? Reels.
So they figured out hey, either I can make money either being a social influencer because these people love to watch me, or I can make something or do something and post videos doing it and make money.
Right.
So, that's what, it's kind of how it became. And it's funny because a lot of people think that when I first started this, it really wasn't that big.
Right.
It was out west, but not here yet.
Not here, yeah.
And everybody's like, "Oh, did you start this because of Lainey Wilson?" And I was like, no.
Did she exist then? I guess she did.
She did, but she wasn't as big as what she is now, and she definitely wasn't the big hat person that she is.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny because I remember one of my dad's really good friends, it's a clinician. She has a huge thing in Lexington, Virginia every year, and she is just a killer woman entrepreneur person.
Right.
And so I had said, hey, I've started making these hats. Do you think it would be possible for me to come to your cell and set up with my hats? And she was like, yeah, sure. And my hats were not what they are now. I'll just be very honest. They've progressed for sure. But so I went and I sat up at her cell, and people this brings in thousands of people and people from all over the U.S. So I was selling my hats to Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia, everywhere. And so that was kind of my first big thing.
Little Cleveland County girl with a dream, making it big.
That's cool.
And it just blew up, and now I've literally sold to 18 different states.
Oh, cool.
Wow, that's
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. Where do you mainly sell it? Etsy or?
So I actually never started an Etsy shop because I was going to, but if I post on my social medias, I'll automatically have people messaging me for orders.
Oh, I was ready to fight somebody for that. There was a lady looking at it, and I looked at Monica and I was like, I was like, she better not grab it. That's mine. Because I hadn't taken it off there yet. And I was like, don't do it, lady.
We were talking.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
And talking about that, you work in real estate. I work in marketing, and then the firearms industry. People always try to get something for less. Of course, it's the name of the game, negotiating. But it blew me away when she and her mom were telling me how people think it's a flea market. Well, this one's $240. Will you take a $180 for it? No, that's a product.
Crazy.
It's handmade. There's creativity, there's machines, there's product, and products ain't cheap these days.
No, everything's expensive. It's just it's funny with real estate because, when we list a house with commissions, you've got your buyer and your seller commissions. Well, this is what's crazy. People will come to me and want to try to negotiate my commission, okay? But then they want me to negotiate the best price for their house.
No.
It don't really work that way.
You want to pay me less to do something for you.
Yeah. So it's just, but that's where you have to remember what you're worth.
That's exactly right. There's a Lil Wayne song that talks about that. It's a rap song, but it's a good one. But seriously, you have to know your worth. Yep. And then she was even telling me with hair. And I mean,
my mom's a hairdresser, so I know. So I know that's that.
And my mom did hair for years until I was 6 years old, and she started having so many back problems. She went into graphic design, but like Nikki Lowry, hats off, does my hair, and like you're paying for years of experience, product
is expensive,
training,
and product's expensive,
and it's gone up so much.
I know.
Like, I ran in the other day, and I was because the girl that I work with, she was like, "Hey," she was like, "Do you have a highlight today?" And I was like, "Yeah, I actually do." And she's like, "Well, we have no lightener. Can you go to the store?" So I was like, "Yes." So I run into Cosmoprof. I get 2 tubs of lightener. It was $80-something just for those 2 things, and I'm like, and we go through that like crazy, and that's like, and I saw
people don't understand
even the
that.
foil. She was saying the foil, so expensive.
All that's expensive, and that's what my mom said. Like, she's got some regulars, and if she tries to go up 50 cents or $1,
they
lose their ever-loving mind.
Yes.
And that's the thing is, like, obviously you guys don't want to go up if you don't have to, but at the end of the day is you have to be able to make your money, and you can't help that lightener and everything else. Color is just so much more expensive. You can't help that.
Exactly. Well, and I think something that a lot of people don't understand, like I saw a post the other day, and like, let's be real, we got our hair highlighted in the 90s, and it was like the big chunky streak.
Shoot, I had sun in, sister. I'd be spraying it later by the pool.
So
different techniques now.
You did that. You never toned it, nothing. Like it was just raw blonde, and you walked out of there and thought you looked good. Like now, now you get a toner, a root melt. It's foiled.
Yep.
Like,
and you don't use Aquanet.
So different.
When I go to the hairdresser, I'm there because I have extensions in, but like my mom won't do my extensions. But when I go there and get my extensions and
I'm there hours.
I'm there 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, I'm at least there like 3.5, 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long process. So if you're getting paid for your time, but then also, the shampoo, the conditioner, the toner, the color,
the training that you have to do, your licensing.
That's not to mention, you got to think hairdressers. They also, you don't have insurance.
No,
you don't have any of those things.
That's right.
You still got to pay taxes. You need life insurance. You've got to have all these things.
Well, and people don't understand in the entrepreneur world.
People don't understand those things. That's just like me being a real estate agent. Guess what?
Yeah, that's right.
You might see a house that I've got under contract for $500,000, and you might see that I'm making 3%, but you don't understand. I've got to pay my brokerage. I've got bills at this office. We've got.
We're just talking about photography,
the
marketing of it.
Marketing, and then MLS fees and all the things.
Yeah.
Stuff is expensive and stuff costs. So at the end of that, you might see this chunk, but in reality, after taxes and everything, we're probably not even making half of that.
That's right.
So that's what people have to understand.
Well, and we don't get tax returns. I don't know about y'all. I don't get, like, we're like trying to not cringe and cry
when we have to pay our taxes.
I mean, that's the thing too. And then with firearms training, my husband has probably taught more people in the Southeast in firearms training. And I've been an instructor since 2015. He's been an instructor since like 2005. We'll have people call like, I don't know if I could, so-and-so's doing a class for $55. And you know what I've started saying? And I say it real bless your heart Southern. I say, well, you know what, sir or ma'am? You might need to go ahead and go take a class with them because our class is not $55. We don't teach the state minimum. It's our name. It's our what we're doing. And I'm not setting somebody out there in the world to go protect yourself when you don't know the legalities of what you're doing. You don't know handgun safety. You don't know any of that stuff. So, yeah, I think there's always a misconception when you're an entrepreneur, and then they think you're like money bags. Money bags.
That's the thing too. Like people say that to me all the time too. They're like, "Oh, you run 2 businesses like you," and I'm like,
"Must be."
Yeah.
I get
must be nice.
Yeah,
I like your vehicle. Oh, that's
Oh yeah. Oh, I like your Tahoe. Oh, I love that bag. Must be nice. And I'm like, do you know what it does?
Yeah. Do you know? Do you not feel like you work way harder for yourself than you've ever worked for anybody else?
Yeah, it's funny because I saw a TikTok the other day, and somebody said, I quit my 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours for myself.
That's right.
And that's how it genuinely
with no insurance.
With no insurance, and you work harder. I mean, that's how it is. Now, is it great to have, like, as a real estate agent, to have that freedom of time? Yeah, But really, in reality, we really don't necessarily have that freedom of time because my schedule goes off of my client's schedule.
That's right.
So if my client works till 5 o'clock and needs to meet at 6 o'clock, guess what? Your girl's going to meet them at 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
you know?
Same thing as a
Same with
hairdresser.
you.
And I think that all the time. I'm like, okay, so I quit my job, which it wasn't a set schedule, but I quit my job to think I was going to have a job where I could work my own schedule. Okay, now I come home from the salon and I work on hats nonstop.
And you work on hats,
yeah. And it's like, you know, and then I wake up in the mornings and while I'm drinking my coffee, I like make my social media posts and like,
and then people booking appointments. They want you to text them back right away because you remember you don't have a life. Like you're supposed to be on call 24/7, right? I mean, and that's the thing too. You have to kind of learn how to, you know, how to do everything,
manage your time, and
So with your dad owning a business and then you ending up owning a business, so I always make notes because I always I'm so ADHD and I'll squirrel and talk about everything besides what I want to talk about.
No.
I know it's hard to believe. I know if you know me, you're shocked. Nick's back there rolling his eyes at me right now behind the camera. But I always like to ask, as an adult, what is the stuff that your mama never told you that you had to learn as an adult? And her mama's over here, by the way. She's watching.
My parents, we're all really close, and my parents, my mom has worked 2 or 3 different jobs at a time running my dad's business. She worked for a dietitian here in Kings Mountain. She's on the North Carolina State Board, so she's always kind of been superwoman to me. She does it all.
Right.
And so I think they've always been very honest. And even when I kind of wanted to do this, they had a heart to heart with me. You don't want to work for yourself. It's so hard. It's, you got to have
Monica
insurance.
knows.
You'll have no retirement. I mean, so they're very open book about that with me, and I was like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, Brittany and I didn't tell you before you came here today, but we're actually going with you on your trip overseas. She's a world traveler. And I can't remember where you told me that you're traveling to this year, but some of the places you've gone, and then is it Europe?
I've been all over Europe, but I'm going to Bali.
Yes, is that not a dream? So can't you ride elephants or something there? I think my friend Jessica Brokos went there, and she's in a bikini. It looks like she's a model. I mean, she's beautiful, but I think she's riding an elephant. But she went to Bali.
There's a thing somewhere there. There's a sanctuary.
Are you going
thing
for pleasure or business?
For pleasure.
For pleasure. Yeah. Oh, that's how long are you going to stay?
Just a fun trip. 2.5 weeks because.
Oh my God, we're so going with you.
It takes
takes 24 hours to get there,
more
right?
More than that.
Really?
So I'm gonna leave here on the 22nd of May, and then it'll be the 25th here, y'all's time. I don't arrive until the 24th that night.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So where are your connections?
Exhausted.
Yeah, jet lag for sure.
Yes.
Where are all your connections?
So the resort that I worked at doing weddings and events, they had a lot of J1 international interns, and so I met friends from all over the world.
So that's who you're going with?
Well, I'm actually going with my best friend from here. We decided to do it because we were both turning 30, so we were
I love that.
Oh, it's the Dirty 30 trip.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
That's what we're doing it for this year. But in the past, most of mine have either been traveling to see friends that I've made in other areas and stuff, or just wanting to go. I started a thing. I went through a lot of stuff in 2015, and so I just kind of made a thing to myself,
take a trip every year.
Picked myself up by the bootstraps, and I was like, I'm going to go on a trip. I'm going to travel the world and do what I want to do.
I just saw, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, Ashley Wilson just posted on her Facebook earlier today that her counselor told her that, because she's been doing some self-discovery stuff, which, as women, that's kind of the moral of what we're doing this for, always educating, encouraging, empowering.
Absolutely.
And they're like, you need to go on a trip by yourself. And she's like, and her daughter was part of the volleyball team that just won the state championship. And she's like, I don't know if I'll go on a trip by myself, but she's like, I went on Carnival and it was free. I only had to pay $100, and then there's a group, and it looks like there's a bunch of girl trips. And so she's doing, and I'm like, that's really cool. I mean, that's pretty fun. And sometimes I think you have to go through that self-discovery phase, right?
Yeah, for sure. So my very first, like, out of the country, I went to Germany and France. And so I flew over there by myself. My cousin, and then they were actually stationed at the Air Force Base there at the time. So I was meeting them once I got there. But I get off this plane in Germany, and I'm in the airport, and all these, like, long German words on these signs, I have no idea. And I'm like, I start to panic. I'm like, okay.
Uncomfortable.
And then there's, like, these little men.
It wasn't Spanish, was it?
No. Send me to Spain. I'm good. So I started looking on the signs, and there were these little, like, men, and they looked like they were, like, leaving, you know? So I'm like, okay, that's like a exit sign. So I'm like following these little men, and I'm like getting nowhere. And so I'm like, okay.
Oh, no.
So I call my cousin, and she's like, yeah, no, that's not what that means. I can't remember what she told me that it was. And I was like, okay, well, how do I get out of here? And she was like, okay, you're looking for the word Osfart. And I was like, okay. So then I'm like looking at these signs trying to figure that out.
Because you should have had Riesling. You could have understood it better.
That's
right?
what exit means. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'll know what exit means in German for the rest of my life.
I would have been like, I don't get scared very often, but I would have probably been terrified.
I would have been absolutely freaking out.
Yeah.
And if my husband would have been with me, we would have been like, nah, 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 nah. Yeah, it would have been an absolute crazy. It would have been crazy.
We had a pretty rough encounter in Paris, and I think that's like the only scared situation.
I've heard that. I've heard that it's a dangerous place.
Paris like people get like stabbed at the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, it's not what we think.
So
it is
you wouldn't. So you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't go back.
It's a been there, done that. Don't ever want to go back.
Really? All right. To my husband Jesse Saucier, it's actually Saucier. It's French. We're not going to Paris.
Good to know.
Yeah,
because I've always wanted to go, but
now if you go, I would say make sure. Like, what we don't really realize is, like, Paris in itself is actually really big. Yeah. And then, like, all the things that we see in movies, like the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower, it's like a 5-mile circle. Like, you can walk and do all of it in a day.
Oh, wow.
And I would just make sure that you know, like, where you're staying and that you're staying within that area.
Right, and not going on the outskirts.
Yes, because we didn't know that our hotel was actually booked 45 minutes out of that inner circle.
Oh, wow.
And we were in a very dangerous
Was it like a
area.
a taxi that you had to take, or like how was the transportation?
Well, so that night, no, that's how we ended up in a scary situation. I actually ended up locked in a McDonald's by a security guard, because
oh dear God,
we were trying to take this train, and you don't understand it. Like, their train system is all like lines and bubbles, and I'm like, we don't know what we're doing. And so we're like trying to take this train. All we wanted to do was see the Eiffel Tower at night lit up. And so we're like going back and forth, and we finally stop, and then this lady starts following us, and she's like screaming, yelling at us in French, and she has this like bag, and we called it a drug bag. We don't know what it was.
Oh my God, it's a
but
bomb.
It was like, and so she's like rolling this bag along and like yelling at us in French, and we're like, and so we run into this McDonald's, and we like there's a guy like standing there, and we're like, there's somebody following us, and so he like locks us in there, and then she's like beating on the window, yelling, and they like yell back and forth at each other in French, and I'm like, why do I not know French?
You know, it reminds me of what's that movie? Taken?
Yes. Honestly, me and my cousin say that all the time. We're like,
Ford?
Yes.
We literally lived like the Taken. Like,
see, that right there, that movie has what's kept me from going places like that.
That's scary.
That guy helped us get a taxi, because we were like, at that point, we were like, screw this. We just want to go back to our hotel.
Yeah.
Like,
did he understand English? I'm assuming,
he did. So he helped us actually get a taxi, because we couldn't figure out the train thing. So we go back to our hotel. I call my mom, like, FaceTiming, like, literally bawling my eyes out, and she's like, what am I supposed to
get home?
Yeah, and so we wake up the next day, and we drive into that center circle in Paris.
Did you not try to find a hotel there? I would have been like, screw the other hotel. We're figuring this out. Like,
it was so late, like at night and stuff. And then at that point, we finally were just like, okay, if we can just like get in our hotel and get in our room, like, we're just not going to leave our room, you know?
Jeez,
that's
and it's not cheap either.
No.
It's like super expensive from what I've heard.
Yeah. And I mean, I was like 21 at the time, I think.
Wow.
And that was my first like out of the country experience, you know?
My goodness.
And so I was like, okay.
But the good thing is you didn't let it stop you from traveling since then.
And then we went on the next day. We went on about all of our business, and then we did all that stuff, within the circle and stuff like that the next few days.
That's scary. That's scary for sure. Yeah. Because, when you go overseas, it's not like here in the United States, like, your girl's got her gun in her purse over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're out of the country, like, you have nothing.
And that's like when we went to Jamaica in 2021. I thought Fredell-Saucier was going to have a stroke because you cannot take a firearm to Jamaica.
No protection.
So we and I knew what was going to happen because I've traveled a lot. Jesse had never traveled there. And, of course, here he is, state trooper, and they're like, you want some weed, man? You want a beer? And he's not a drinker. Like, he might drink 3 beers a year, if that. And I was like, oh, Jesus, he's going to think Jamaica's horrible. And then, he's like, don't drink but a couple drinks because you don't know what the driver's. But that's the truth.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because the Dominican Republic several years ago.
We've been there.
Dude.
They drink going down the road.
Yeah. And it's like.
Oh, yeah. We were on our honeymoon, and we were on a bus. And literally on the bus, we were going to like one of those excursions.
Yeah.
And they were pouring the entire bus shots of tequila.
Oh my God.
Like, it was insane. And I literally told CJ, I was like, if we make it back to our hotel, it will be an act of God.
Oh yeah. The girl I work with, that's where they're going on their honeymoon.
Yeah.
Well, I loved the resort. We only left one time to go to, it was a casino, which I won a lot of money. I was kind of excited about that. But when we got back, it was a huge national story here in the U.S. where a woman had been drugged and raped it's like sexually assaulted, attacked. I mean, brutally beaten.
Yes.
And it was at the same resort.
Oh, my gosh. No, do y'all remember
the
bombing in the cafe in Paris?
Yes.
That literally was like 2 weeks after I got home.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. Yeah, that's scary. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Scary. You have to, like, a lot of women, and it's not just young girls. A lot of women I see out, they're not aware of their surroundings.
They're not.
And I'm like, you're an idiot. I don't mean to be ugly, but you're dumb. And it's like with everything going on and like with my job, I'm all over the place. Yeah. Well, if I'm around Kings Mountain, which heck, Kings Mountain's not even safe anymore. There was a carjacking at Ingalls, and then there was a convenience store. Yeah. Lady was robbed at gunpoint. I mean, all this stuff.
Well, the problem, people are walking out
that's
like
right.
this.
Yes, that's right.
And that's the thing is, for me personally, if I'm walking out, my purse is unzipped.
Yeah.
And my hand.
That's right.
Is right there on my gun. Or, if I've got my kids, then I'll try to put it on my waist, and my kids, hands are in mine. But you just really don't know whether you're in Kings Mountain or you're in Charlotte or wherever you're at. You have to. That's why, for women in general, I've never understood why women just don't have.
Well, in sex trafficking. We have all these corridors. I mean, we're right here at 77, 95, 85. In sex trafficking,
that's right.
North Carolina is the 5th most trafficked state in the United States. And people will be like, "Why? My son's 9 and he's very tall. Why do you not let him go into when you go to the bathroom? Why do you not let him stand out there?" Because I don't want my child kidnapped. Because I don't want my child trafficked and put in there. And guess what, lady? If you don't like my son in the bathroom, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care. It's my job to protect him. Yeah. And I understand that. If he's with his dad or or his brothers, or if we're in a restaurant, that's a completely different story. But if it's just me, because I'm gonna tell y'all, it used to freak me out. Probably nobody knows this. My mom's probably the only one who really knew. It freaked me out when he was a baby to go to the store. And I think the reason it was when I had to have a C-section, my little granny, I had picked her up and we were at Walmart. I had his little carry-all thing in the cart. My granny's like, reach that for me, because she was 5 feet tall. I go to reach up on this shelf and I'm sore as crap. He was only a couple weeks old. And this dude went in to I really feel like he was going to grab Riker. And y'all, I'm going to tell you, I went batshit crazy on that man. I pulled my gun out. I started beating him with my bag. I started screaming bloody murder. People and he was speaking Spanish. I'm like, dude, I speak Spanish too. And I was like, don't touch my kid. He's like, well, I was just wanting to see what it was. No. And then I literally slammed him up against the aisle in Walmart. And after that, I was terrified. Yeah. And it's just fear.
My aunt, her niece went through something very similar with that, and like they followed him around the store and stuff, and like reached. It was something similar, like kind of reached, and she thought she was like reaching to take her daughter
Mama
out
Bear
of the car.
is like a phrase for a reason. Like I don't even need. I'm like Brittany. I always have my firearm with me and other weapons, but I would literally rip somebody's head off with my bare hands. It's like the world's crazy.
Well, you know, it's crazy because what day was that? Monday, my girls and I were eating at Sub Factory in Kings Mountain. And there was it was just me and my two girls, and there was a couple across the way that was eating. And my youngest was so uncomfortable. They kept looking at us. They kept pointing. And I told my baby, I said, baby, you ain't got nothing to worry about. Mommy's got her gun right here.
That's right.
You let them try something. And I said, Mommy will kill somebody. I mean, that's my kids. And, but it is scary, like we were talking about earlier. And this is something that I don't really tell many people because of the fact that I don't want to scare people. But I had a stalker what was this, April, May?
Yeah, it was,
I had a stalker and,
crazy.
Calling me at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, leaving very, very, very disturbing.
It was bad.
Voicemails. And
he had a criminal history.
He had a criminal history
of doing this to other people.
Come to find out, like, he ended up living like 2 streets over from my girl's school. So when they went to arrest him, they locked down their school. Thankfully, in terms of the judge and everybody at the courthouse in Cleveland County, they were fabulous. And he ended up going to jail for, I think it was about 130 days. And then he had 3 years probation. So he's still on probation. And thankfully I haven't had anything, but he was following me.
And he requested me as a friend on Facebook.
Yes.
And I freaked out 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. She sent me a screenshot and he requested, requested.
I was like, I ain't your girl.
Yeah. So anyways, but it's crazy. You just never know. So, as women that are on their phone when they're walking around or whatever it is, get out of your phone. I mean, I'm a real estate agent. I'm on my phone a bunch, but.
Well, that's like for me, like if I'm going out of somewhere or something, if I'm on the phone, like I will call and make Mom be like on the phone with me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if something weird happens and you don't hear me or whatever, like you better call 911 immediately.
Yep.
Well, talking about calling. If they want to look at your hats and buy a hat or call you or about hair or whatever, what is the website? What is the number?
So I'm on all social media platforms. It's KB Custom Cowgirl Designs. And you can put just at KB Customs on Facebook and Instagram. And then my Instagram for hair is KB Hair Artistry. And I am a stylist at Headlines Unlimited in Blacksburg, South Carolina.
So there you have it. Hey, my girl's making me proud over here, rocking it out at 29 years old, almost 30.
And tell them really quick, what are your typical price ranges for hats?
So generally, mine, I try to carry, all my hats are like a good quality.
Yeah, you can tell they're great quality.
Actual wool or felt hats. So, they generally range between like $120 to about $250. Because I do carry designer hats
for sure. Absolutely.
And so they are.
And let me tell y'all, they are well worth it.
And you can tell you really like this one. This one's extremely detailed. Yes. So I'm sure that really took. So like for example, this one right here. So this one right here, like these that has this etching and stuff on it, that would probably be like $250.
Yeah. Well, no, that one's about $190. Or so.
I mean, super affordable for the work.
I like that. Yeah. And I love this.
I carry, y'all may not be familiar, but Charlie One Horse, it's like a name brand, high-end Western hat. So I do those, and those are the ones that might be a little more over 200, and they would have to have a lot of detail. Yeah. And then some of the bands are like tooled leather bands. Yeah. I have a guy that does those for me and stuff, so obviously I pay him for that. And so it just depends on what all goes into it.
And you make them custom, so whatever people want.
So you can do custom, and then I do all kinds of different events. I actually started the end of last year, and it's something that I'm booking and doing a lot more this year, is like custom hat bars. Yeah. So you can get some girlfriends together or people, whoever. Right. I do men's hats as well, but men are usually just kind of plain basic,
right?
And I come to your house with the hats, my bands.
That's fun.
I bring everything,
cool.
And you can like design it yourself, and then I still do the the burning part for you.
Oh, wow. So you do
That's
the
neat.
burning part like on site?
Yes, as long as some of them are
As long as it's not like,
that, it depends on how many people you have and what you're wanting on it.
Yeah.
If it's something smaller that I can do in the time frame, yes, some of them
Yeah.
I'll take home, I'll burn them, and then bring it back to you or
gosh,
get it to
that's
you.
cool. Yeah.
So that is absolutely awesome. And I think talking about your story and how, you had some things happen, you overcame a lot of obstacles, and like we were talking about on our last podcast is you don't ever have to feel stuck, ladies. You don't have to feel stuck in life. The world is your canvas, in my opinion. So Brittany's an example of that. Kaylin's an example of that. So we'll also tag your businesses on the podcast. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
and
for having me.
her mama's over here too. So thank you for being a woman that's exemplifying somebody that is getting up and tying your shoes every day. So get up and tie your shoes and contact her and get you a hat today, y'all. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.